Hi all, and we are back on the XD. You've been waiting for it, and here it is. We don't actually have that much left to do on the body shell. So we're going to tackle... So we're probably going to do the rest of this week, which is only 2 days, and then most of next week. So we've got to get rid of that little bit of boot channel, which I'm going to use those offcuts from the old one. Weld up those little baby holes there. Tidy up a little bit down there. Fix that in the dog leg. Weld up these little holes in the roof. When I get the door off, I'll show you there's actually a bit of rust in the A-pillar just here, which isn't bad. I think there might be a dent in the sill panel at the back, yes, and maybe a teeny tiny weeny hole at the front. No showstoppers. And what we're going to attempt to do is paint the body shell. Do ignore, we're not doing the front or the engine bay. We're going to do the pillars, the door jambs, the roof, the rear quarters, the boot channels, and the back panel. So, is it 80% of the body shell we're going to paint, because we want to just get it done, because it's not stopping it from being done. And then we can do the doors and bolt them on for good, do the boot lid bolted on for good, mount the tail lights and do a few things at the back there, and then we can bag up the whole car and do the front. But the engine bay needs to be stripped, and I don't want to do it this time around. And luckily, because this car is fantastic, these XD, XE, XFs are great, because unlike a Falcon Coupe where you're stuck if you paint this quarter panel, you're actually painting the other one on the roof, because there's no real... to get a nice job, you can't really blend them. You sort of have to do the whole lot. Whereas this, these are quite... got a lot of joins. You could... you can get away with just painting the quarter panel, or just the door openings, or just the roof, because they've got these... Let's put that up there. These plastic trims that sort of divide everything, so you can hide the paint edge, like just here, you know, just mask off through here. And I mean, hell, that's not actually that big of a... You could do a little baby one right there, you would hardly even notice, and you could just paint the quarter panel. And that's what's great about these cars. There's so many, or you can just do the roof and just have it under here and have the tape line, or you'll never see it. So you can get away with doing sections on them without any effort. And like this is nowhere near this. So you can do a tape line down there, do the pillars and all that, and then come back, mask up the rest of the car and bag it up nice and tight, do the engine bay and do the cowl panel. We've got the paint. It's called Snow White with S-N-O, not W. There ain't no W in this one, boy. So... that's the plan. All the doors are rust free. I put a door skin on the driver's door. I reckon I've bodyworked the driver's door, that door and the rear door. This one somehow managed to skip that process and hasn't been done yet. And I haven't done the boot lid yet either. But on this car we have repaired all the rust that was here. So it required cutting all this out and rebuilding all in here. We've put a back panel on it. We put, as you saw in one of the previous videos, you'll have to go back and find that. It is there. I put the rear quarter on and walked you through all that, because that was pretty bad in there. The other one didn't need anything, and I don't think I did a video on it because it was before I started getting really into videos. But I'd put a new old stock back panel on it, and you'll have to go back a long way, but to find the video I did on this side. But this side is pretty much... I wanted to rub it down one more time, re-prime it just to be doubly sure, but this side's all bodyworked. And actually looking pretty good, except for the guard. But yeah, this rear quarter's been straightened. And I think I welded up that hole. Yes, I did. So that's where we're at. We're going to tackle some bits. We'll probably do this bit first, I reckon, because it's a pretty common area. People like to know how to fix rust. it's really not difficult at all. It's like a right angle piece of steel, but luckily I'm just going to cut it out of the deck chair over here. For some reason it's in there. Just going to cut out a little bit of leftover and zap it into here and quickly zap up those little holes. They're nothing to show, they're not showstoppers. And then that's all the boot channels done, and we can move to the dog leg. And we've got to, before we do anything, we've got to get off the dollies, those wheels on the ground and those tyres flat on the driver's side, and this side as high as I can on the big axle stands, because if you flatten the tyres on the other side, not only does it seems to make the car more stable because you're increasing its ground footprint, but you're also dropping the height, so it's basically going more tilty. And if you haven't got a hoist like I don't, it actually makes it a bit easier. So let's get stuck into it. We'll get it on the ground first and into position, and we'll rip all the doors off. Probably these two and that guard, and we'll just get stuck into this side, eh? Alright, I just want to add one little trick to this XD. So you'll notice we've got it up on stands now. Now this is a trick for new players. If you already know this, do ignore it. I've got a couple of people who are fairly new and they want to know stuff, so I'm going to tell you a trick on how to take doors off, especially if you're doing it on your own. Now, it's all about knowing which way the door is going to fall. You can take out those two and the bottom three bolts, so that one, and that one, and do that one, the top one, last, because, I mean, it will probably twist like this, but it won't fall off, because the weight of the door is pressing itself against the hinges. So you can take those three out and nothing will happen until you take the top on it. If you started going from the top to the bottom, you'll notice your door will start falling off the car. So you want to go from the bottom to the top. And it's same with boot lids and bonnets. So when your boot lid is up in the air like that, hopefully that stays there. That car just settled a little bit. It's all good though, it's on stands. We use this as a guide. You can take out the top bolt because the bottom one is holding all the weight. If you take out the bottom one first, it'll do that. So if you take out the top one and do the bottom one last, it will still be where it is. It's sort of a strange way of saying it, but those kind of things, just give the car a wiggle, yep, all good. Those kind of things help, especially if you're doing a lot of this on your own. So if you already know all this crap, do ignore it. If you didn't know that, absorb it. So yeah, so we're going to rip the doors off. This is that bit of rust I was talking about. That's a baby little bit of rust. We're just going to zip zip, have that done. The sill panel is way more dented than I thought, than I remember. I haven't quite worked that one out yet, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. One thought is to create this rolled shape here, drill out these pop welds and just join a lower section in just below that, thusly replacing all the dents and shit. Yeah, we'll just cross that bridge when we come to it, but I thought I'd show that and add to the video. And yeah, hope that helps. Stay tuned, we'll keep trolling along and we'll get into the rust in a minute. So I have those moments where sometimes I don't actually feel like doing welding. I decided that I will be trying painting the body shell of this car. And part of me was like, no, I want to do some actual bodywork, as in a bit of filler and whatnot. So I changed it up and I'm going to straighten up this quarter panel today, which is, it's actually not too bad. It's roughed out. I want to blend in my line where the weld panel was, and I want to straighten up that garbage. I just want to do some bodywork. It's a little less pointy and grindy and noisy, and I just want to chill out for a bit while I do this. I will do a few videos this week and next week on this car, so if you don't see what you want to see in this video today, don't worry, there'll probably be some more, and there definitely will be rust repairs. Just today I was like, nah, I want to chill out, I want to do some bog work. I just want to change it up. I've done a lot of metal work recently and a lot of paint work, and this time I just want to do a bit of body work. Like sometimes when you do too many things, you just sort of get stuck, and you need to change your pace so your brain doesn't want to kill you. So what I'm going to do with this, I've got my trusty palm sander with 120, and this is Epitech, so this is good shit. Ideally, you don't want to remove this from the actual steel. Now, I see plenty of videos and stuff, and my word, there's 400,000 different ways to do work on a car. Like, I'm going to do the way that I know works and I've seen work, etc, etc. I know other people do it differently. I know that Epitech really prefers to be on super clean steel. It generally doesn't like to have dioxidine or anything underneath it. It will stick, but I tell you what, you can, under the right circumstances, you can flake it off with your nail. Yep. So, I don't know. It's all I'm just going off my experience and what I know works. And, you know, these videos are intended to help the people who really are super new to it. So, if you already know how to operate and do this stuff, kudos to you. You know, if you got a better way of doing something, write a comment. I'll probably look at it and may or may not take it on board. I'm just going to do what I know works and what I prefer. I'm only going to lightly sand this with 120, just to give the filler something to stick to. I know that it will stick to Epitech beautifully. You could actually just put it straight on that, not sand it, and it will stick fairly well. But I prefer it to have something to bite into. It also show up a lot of the high and low spots. And that's how I'm going to do it. Just going to rub it down with 120, and then I'm going to skim the whole quarter panel, one side to the other. And then I actually buzz it down with 80 grit on one of these things, just to end up with it smooth. And then I come along with a board file, which is the long boards, with 120. And before I sand it, I put some guide coat down, a powder guide coat, and then I will flatten it off with a board file. Just doing it with a sander speeds things up to the 10th degree. If you try and sit there and just file away with a board file, you'll be there for a long time. I learned this in the crash shop, and it actually works really well, and it's really quick. And cars like this, which I just, you know, have been designed with a set rule, they're pretty good. So this is how I'm doing it. You don't have to do it this way. Each to their own. There's a million different ways to skin a cat. There's a horse for every rider. There's, you know, there's repairs, and then there's repairs. And, you know, as long as the end result is a car that's structurally sound and looks pretty, that's all that matters. Structurally sound as in safe to use. I've seen plenty of people do repairs, and it makes me go, well, I'm not getting into that car. So yeah, let's get stuck into it. A bit of time lapse. I don't know. I'm just trying to get my mojo back with filming and stuff like that. So yeah, let's get cracking. And there you have it, nicely sanded or scuffed up with 120, perfect for a skim. Now, there'll be those of you who say, oh, bog's supposed to go in bare metal. Well, yes and no. See, that's another one of those, you're opening a bloody big can of worms, because there are plenty of people who will not put bog over bare metal, and then there's others who won't do it unless there is bare metal. So you're not going to win the argument one way or the other, because there are so many people who do it completely differently to each other. Bless me, child. So it's just, you do it your way, I'm going to do it my way. This way works. The reason that some people don't like to put bog over bare metal is the moisture factor, because bog is porous. it absorbs moisture. So if you're going to do this, you don't want to take forever to do it, and you don't want to spread it over a few days. You want to sort of do it, keep it clean. Don't do it on a rainy day. Luckily, it is a lovely day today. You just want to keep the moisture away from the bare steel. And then once you've bogged it, you want to prime it. E-T-C-H. Prime it. So that it bonds to the steel. And then there's others who prefer to put the bog, I don't know if I just said that one way or the other, but I don't know, I just said, some people prefer to have the metal covered before the bog goes on, some people prefer it the other way around. It's just a weird one. I know why some people like it one way, and I know why some people like the other way. Some people like the bog to be under everything because of the painting process, and if you feather the bog into steel, it actually ends up a little bit nicer. If you bog over paint and then repaint, you'll probably find that the paint will sink into and you'll see the bog work. And I believe that's some of the reason why. You'll probably find painters prefer the bog to be on steel. Good painters anyway. And it's just weird. I've been in, I think, 8 different crash shops. 5 of them were fairly major crash shops, as in effing huge, with like 20 panel beaters, and not 20 panel beaters, but I know one of them had 13 panel beaters. I was one of a fair few. And everybody had their different ways of doing things. So, and I'm sorry about this video having a bit of ramblings, but I feel when you do metalwork, nobody seems to get upset about it. But if you start doing bog work, holy shit, do you upset people? And I'd say it's because loads of people do bog work. Almost no one does metalwork. Well, you know, a lot of people are scared of metalwork, but not many people are scared of bog, if that makes sense. Yeah, there's my join on the quarter panel. Just there on the edge. It's not going to require much bog there. If I was had unlimited time on this car, I could probably metal finish that and not need any bog on that join, but that's not how this is going to go. So we're going to skim this whole shooting match from one side to the other. It's just the best way to do it, and we'll buzz it down with 80. Yeah, there'll be a few people out there going, I can't afford this tool, but I'm almost certain you can buy a variant of this which is electric. So basically, when this disc spins, it also goes up and around. It oscillates. So that's what you're looking for. Not just turning, but spinning in a circle as well. And I know you can buy them electric, but you might have to hunt for them. I know that I went to a thrift store once and found one for $8 whole and actually worked really well for a long, long time. And that's mainly for people who don't have compressors and stuff like that and have to do this the hard way. Doesn't mean you have to, just because you haven't got a compressor doesn't mean you can't do the job. Hell, you can buy spray guns that are electric. I'm not super convinced that they'll give you the Mickey Mouse finish, but if you can get the paint on and know how to rub and polish it, then you end up with a pretty good finish. So that's just for the non-compressor related people. So yeah, this is going to be a long video, I can tell. Let's get into it. So I thought I might do this one in real time because I don't know, it just seems a bit nicer to see me actually doing something. I'll just drop that. You'll also notice I have tools like this. It's a really big applicator. Usually builders use them for doing houses, but when you do stuff like this, instead of having like that, it's like 3 times the size, and you end up, you know, because then you know that everything in that area is really flat. So, you know, and you can buy those really big if you want to. So I got my onion board. I forgot what the name was when I did my bogging video, but I do know what they're called. I just had a brain fart. So blob a bog or fill it. So I've got 2 types of rage. This is the normal rage. The other stuff I showed in that video, which I should have showed the other one as well. This is the more stuff designed for filling craters. The other stuff's filling, you know, ripples. So I always do that. Keep it separate in case, you know, You mix it up, yeah, and then somebody goes, hey, I need your attention for something. You're like, shit, and you've just mixed up bog and you've totally wasted it. If this is on this, then it's totally screwed if you leave it. But like this, not touching, you could leave that for several hours and nothing bad will happen. Except shit might land in that and you probably don't want that. But, so, mixing bog's a bit of an art form in itself. As long as usually you can pick a good sculptor, as you'd say, by their ability to not get shit on their hands. Someone who's clean and neat is usually pretty good. I mean, it's almost impossible not to get some of this on yourself, but if you can get away with not getting on it yourself, it's even better, because it takes a while to get it off your hands. And I usually just fold it in and keep going, and occasionally I'll wipe that all the way down, because you'll get unmixed filler on the bottom of that. And now, also, if you don't mix the ratios right, you can have two things. One, the bog will never go off and you have to scrape it off. Or two, it'll go off so fast it's not even funny. Or three, if you haven't mixed it thoroughly, you'll come across patches when you're standing where you'll hit unmixed bog, and you'll hit stuff that's like the stuff without the hardener, and it'll just totally screw your work and you'll have to redo it. And I've hit that a couple of times. You know, it's impossible not to make some mistakes. So I just try and push it on. Sure, I'm going to get comments on this, but you know, each to their own. I'm not here to start a fight. There you go. Yeah, you like it, don't you? Yeah. I was try and stick to one area at a time too. So I'll put that up there. Now we've got the bog on. Now we can do some sharpening. Fairly straightforward cut. Now we're going to have to coat the whole sides because it's had a big, I put a corner on there. And you do want to do this with some speed and accuracy, because as you do this it's going off. As in, it's drying before your eyes. You ever watch bog dry? I sure have, kids. Probably won't need a lot of filler up here, but because you've got to do the whole shooting match, it's better to, remind me to sand that bit, it's better to do the whole lot, that way you don't end up with edges. Because you end up with, if you don't get it right, you can make your job actually harder than it needs to be. Now I get it like that. Neat. Well, neat-ish. There's just so many different ways you can do this, it's not even funny, so don't hold me responsible for the way that you do it. You may do it completely differently to me. So, as I said, it's a disclaimer, this is how I'm doing it. Doesn't mean this is the way the textbooks say to do it, or anything like that. I'm just going from what I've experienced in my time on this planet. Just like that. In this time I'm not going to use that, because that's perfectly acceptable. I might just throw just a smidgen on the end of that. Also, you always want to, if you're doing it in the middle of the panel, you want to sort of work the edges so that feather them out as much as you can. So you go like this, because you're obviously going to throw that page out. Get as much off as possible. Go clean that with some thinners, or gun wash preferably, and you're ready to go again. And then we'll come back and sand that in a second. So when the bog was drying, we got the applicator and just trimmed off the height of those. I just tested the guide coat. I use the charcoal in the powder form rather than the rattle can black. It's a personal preference. It's just because, I mean, overthrow doesn't matter on this, but when you're in the crash shop and stuff, you don't want to be willy-nilly with a black rattle can and end up on parts that aren't supposed to have any paint on them. So I got used to using that stuff, and it sort of works fairly well. If you don't use it and don't like it, don't use it. It's about that simple. and then I'm going to run over it with the 80 grit, and then guide coat it, and then board file it with 120, and then do this bit, same thing, that bit, same thing, and then we'll straighten up the whole shooting match with possibly a big skim of the fine fill, and use a 180 and start just fine tuning some of the lines, because these cars have got some arrow sharp lines on them. So probably won't do any bodywork in the wheel arch because it just doesn't need it. Maybe a little skim through there in the transition, but there's no need to put any through there, it just needs it through that bit. This is something from when the car was a police car. It's obviously been hit or ramroded or something crazy. But yes, stay tuned. Okay, so we're going to actually have to stop the video after this bit because it is going to be far too long to upload onto YouTube. So we're going to have to do, well, I was just thinking about it before. I might do it in, do this video dedicated to doing a bit of bodywork on the car. The next one I'll do a bit of rust, and then the one after that we might do some paintwork. You won't be able to see it in the camera, but across the top of here is a stack of pinholes. There's 50 different reasons why you get pinholes. I tend to find it's because the bog's a bit thick and the solvent pop. Other people think it's because you didn't mix it properly. There's, once again, can of worms. There's 1,000 different reasons why you end up with it. But so that's roughed out effectively. That's the worst of it. There's a high spot here, a low spot here. There's a high spot here and a low spot here, telling me that we still need to give it a little couple of light taps and potentially another skim and a couple of light taps and a bit more in there. So this is basically the way to rough it out. You got to get it reasonably close. The idea there is to get the bog as nice and as smooth as possible before you start heading down the paintwork type side of things. So I was running the board file lengthwise, like that, diagonally, and then the other way, and it sort of sorts out the issues. You always got to feel your panel, so sometimes you're going to have to come across like this and straighten it out that way, which is what I probably do, but I'll probably do that after I skim the next one, because I want to tap that down. Give that a tap and re-skim it, and obviously mask the style line, because we're going to have to start making sure that stays there. I do ask, if you like and watch my videos and you actually made it to the end and you're not subscribed, please click the subscribe button. I think some people think it costs money. It does not cost money. It just means when you come back to your YouTube channel, my video is in your subscriptions area. It's the people you follow. So don't think clicking subscribe costs you anything, it's free. It just means that I'm in your favourites, basically. And clicking subscribe helps me get to build my channel. So more people, more subscribers, more. Basically trying to build the business to the point where, you know, I'm doing well and I can survive comfortably. At the moment I'm surviving. So building the channel is to help promote the business helps promote the channel, vice versa. I've got Instagram, it's called Rusty Cars with Graham, if you want to get a bit more insight into me. And the business is Graham's Restorations. You can find us on Facebook for more in-depth looks at things or photos of the stuff that you see on YouTube. And don't forget to click like there on there as well. So I'm going to wrap this video up here because it's probably going to be 20 minutes long. Some people will be happy, other people will be sad. There's just so much to pack into videos, and it's hard to show what to pick, what to show and whatnot, but stay tuned because next week the Cleveland for the XB should be back, and we drop the heads off and we get to do an engine build video. That'll be fun because I am not a mechanic and I've never built an engine, but I've watched and read and studied and everything and asked a million different questions to 10 billion different people, and I'm going to learn with you guys. We're going to run through it all together and hope to God when we put it in the car it works. Fingers crossed. You get to learn with me, so fuck yeah. So thanks for watching, stay tuned, and there will be more videos on this soon.